Welcome to the Be About Being Better podcast, where we help people make evidence-based, sustainable, small changes for their health that compound into huge shifts towards a better, more vibrant life. I'm your host, Abby Stasier, a health and life coach, future registered dietitian, a master's graduate from Columbia University, and a certified intuitive eating counselor. And I believe that we can't make lasting or meaningful change single-handedly. So I'm so happy that you're here so that together you can see that a diet-free, sustainable lifestyle is possible, and you can leverage that to live a better life. And remember my disclaimer, this podcast is meant to give you general information and it's not meant to substitute or replace medical advice, a diagnosis, or service treatment. Y'all, oh my goodness. I am so excited for this podcast episode right now. We just finished recording, just finished this interview, and now I'm recording the introduction. Mind blown. Y'all are about to be mind blown. I mean, yes, you're going to want to listen to this episode multiple times. Please share this episode with others. More people need this message. You're going to want to take notes. So if you're listening to this on your commute, listen to it again when you can actually write stuff down. If you're able to write stuff down during the episode, that is preferable. So many value bombs are about to come your way. Holy wow. And I know a lot of the stuff that we talk about in the episode, but the way that our guest, my friend, Rachel Gibler, the way that she says it, it's just makes you think about things in your life and yourself in a whole new way. I'm so excited for y'all to hear this episode. So I met Rachel. We were in a mastermind together, which is kind of when a group of entrepreneurs gets together to help each other in business. Our coach was Megan Yelani, who we've had on the show before. So we were in this mastermind together for about 6 months, and we stayed friends after that and kept helping each other in business. And she just has an incredible story. She really is one of the most resilient people I know. She's been through a lot of stuff in her life, and she's ended up on the other side, and she's sharing all of her wisdom. I'm so excited. She has a podcast called It's Fucking Spiritual. She has no filter. She's an open book. She swears. So just a little warning there for the explicit content, but it's not too bad. A couple bombs dropped, but not as many as I expected, to be honest. Only wisdom bombs, not as many F bombs. So, oh, y'all enjoy the episode. Yo, welcome back to the Be About Being Better podcast. I am joined today by the one, the only Rachel Gibler. Girl, I am so excited that you're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Abby. I'm so stoked to be here.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have a really great time. And my first question for you, we're just going to dive in. This is what we do here at Be About Being Better. And people heard in the intro a little bit about you, and I know people are excited for this episode. So what is one thing about you one thing that you've been through in life that has ultimately made you better? Like, hindsight's 2020. We can look back now and be like, hey, that was some hard shit to go through, but it's ultimately changed me for the better.
Yeah. So many things that I could answer to that question.
Yeah.
But the one that sticks out the most is the catalyst that was ultimately the event that changed the trajectory of my entire life. And this was when I was in a freak accident 5 years ago and shattered my leg. And I was forced to take 3 months medical leave from my company when I worked in corporate America and was in sales and was just running on a hamster wheel for 80 hours a week and
Oh my God.
really hated my life and I hated myself in many ways and was working 80 hours for someone else during the week, blacking out at the bars on the weekend, running on this hamster wheel, wishing time would just pause and stop so I could think. And ultimately, the universe granted my wish and gave me an accident that ultimately led me to changing my entire life. But that's a place I was out last night at a networking event, and a girl had an ACL, a big cast on from her hip to her
Mhm.
ankle, and I'm like, I remember that time
Girl's
so
been
well.
there.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I asked her, I said, "Did you tear your ACL?" And she's like, "Yeah, I did." And I said, "Oh my gosh, congratulations. That was the catalyst that changed my entire life." She looked at me like I had two heads, but I'm like, seriously,
Wow.
there is a gift within this.
Oh,
And
the best is yet
people
to
don't
come.
often, yeah, exactly. People
Mm.
don't often look at uh setbacks in their lives as a catalyst that can change the trajectory and the direction, ultimately the timeline that they're on. And that is exactly what I did, but I made that decision at that time, like, this is gonna be my rock bottom that I build the rest of
Oh,
my life
wow.
upon. And, if it hadn't been for those 3 months and ultimately for that moment of making that decision of, like, I'm gonna tell this story, and I'm going to one day sit on podcast myself and have a podcast myself, and I'm gonna tell the story about how I changed my life from this very moment because I decided, and I remember it clear as day, that
Wow.
I would one day be telling this story, and 5 years later, here we are.
Oh my gosh, and a lot has happened in 5 years,
A lot
and
has happened.
you run an incredible podcast, you have an amazing community, and I know some of your listeners also come over here. I've had a couple people that listen to your
Yes,
show religiously actually be clients in the academy, which is
I
incredible. So
love it.
we got a lot of crossover, and, um, when did you first, like, hear about manifestation, or when did it really click for you? Because this is what you're about now in all spirituality.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I probably heard the term manifestation maybe about 6 months after I got into this work.
Mhm.
I came in what I call the front door of self-development, which is like mindset work and setting your goals and very hyper masculine energy.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of people
And
are right now listening to the show.
yes,
So, yeah,
yeah,
so
and it's
this
a great
shift
place
will
to
be.
be.
Mhm.
Great place to be. And there's levels and layers to this thing, right?
Yeah.
So then from that evolved into spirituality
Mhm.
and going down the more esoteric rabbit hole, and some would call it woo woo a little bit. And that's probably when I heard manifestation, but having it click for me has been a process. It hasn't been this thing that, oh, I heard the term manifestation and I just write down my goals and what I want and why I want it. And then I just like connect to having it and let it go. And then it comes to me. I'm like, no, that at least for me, that's great. There's a lot of manifestation coaches out there that teach that. There's a lot of people that have claimed that that has worked for them. For me, that has not been my experience with
Mhm.
manifestation.
Yeah.
I really had to look at my shit.
Mm.
Like, a lot, and that I would even call the front door of manifestation as well, like, right? Like, I'm gonna write down all my goals, I'm gonna make my vision board, I'm gonna say affirmations, I'm gonna be positive, and I'm gonna just, like, manifest the things that I want, and I'm like, "That's great."
Mhm.
And that's about 5% of what I've found when it comes to actually manifesting your dream life, and so for me,
Mm.
it was really a process of subconscious reprogramming work and really looking at limiting beliefs and things that held me back, looking at the different parts of myself. I do a lot with parts works and archetypes, and about to bring that into my business more. Um, a lot of trauma work, a lot of somatic healing, a lot of body healing. So I've gone down, I mean, over the past 5 years, a lot of different avenues and rabbit holes. And ultimately, I've come to the conclusion that manifesting our dreams, right? um, really comes down to kind of merging a lot of this work. It's
Mm.
all amazing, but nothing, at least in my experience, have I found this is the key. This is the thing that you do. It's more for me has been taking bits and pieces of a lot of different areas of work, and I've manifested a lot in my life. I have completely changed my life. I've changed my finances. I've changed who I'm around. I've changed my own level of self worth. And I'm really real and honest about the fact that it's still a journey and I'm
Yeah.
still on it and I'm still walking the path. And I've manifested all the things I wanted on my vision board that I had when I began.
Yeah.
And the bar keeps moving, the bar keeps raising. And I've come to realize that it's so much less about the stuff and the manifestation and the things, but it's so much more about the feelings that you have when you're in it. And ultimately, that's become my new North Star.
Yeah. So would you say, because I've heard this said before, but I want to debunk a lot of manifestation myths while we have
Yeah.
you on,
Yeah.
that if you think about your goals and where you hope to be, and you tease out, okay, how would I be feeling at that time? How would I be walking into a room? How would I be dressing? But specifically around the feelings, if I, come up with 3 to 5 feelings and I start to cultivate those now in my life, I could be an energetic match for that goal. Is
Mhm.
that something that works, or is that going down the right path, or not really effective?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got to connect to the feeling because the feeling
Mhm.
is the frequency and that we emit and that we put out. And it's so much more about the feeling than people
Mhm.
realize. You know, you might think you want, say, 10K months in your business for someone listening to this. It's like starting their business or maybe on your health journey.
Mhm.
Like you want to be a certain weight. It's like you don't actually want 10K months in the business. You don't actually want to be a certain weight. You want what you believe you're going to feel at that time.
Mm.
And there's been so many times I cannot even tell you, Abby, that perfect example is the house I had last year. I was in a gorgeous, and I'm so open. I'm like the biggest open book ever.
We love
I
it. We're
was in
here
this
for it.
gorgeous 3-story townhome, huge, white, bright, airy, like exactly what I wanted on my vision board. The house, when I got in it, I went through a breakup. It was way too big for me. There was kind of like it was far out from driving. I had to drive 15 minutes into town, which for a lot of people they're like 15 minutes, but for me, working from home, I would isolate myself. And I would be in this big gorgeous house for 6 days alone and then be like, "Why do I feel depressed?" Oh, because I haven't left my house in 6 days, and it wasn't really about the house. It was what I thought I was going to feel by having the house. I moved to Austin and I downsized so that I could live downtown walking distance and be around people, and I realized what I wanted was the feeling of connection. What I wanted was the
Yes.
feeling that I was successful. I wanted yes, I wanted space and I wanted a nice place, but it wasn't about the thing ultimately. And so, if we can understand that it's so much less about the thing that we want and so much more about the feeling that we think we're going to have when we get it, then we can start to people we talk about like the law of detachment or in manifestation for those listening like if you go down this manifestation rabbit hole or you listen to manifestation coaches they'll be like release the how or release outcome release attachment to the outcome. And people are like, well, how can I release attachment to the outcome if I really badly want this thing?
Yeah.
And this is how is that you realize that it's really not about the thing. So there's a saying in manifestation, it's always this or something better. And when you realize it's literally about the feeling that you're going to have or the people that you're going to share it with and the connections that you're going to make or like it's about the experience of it then it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter if it's a big 3-story townhome. It doesn't really matter if it's 5K months, 10K months, or 50K months. What matters is the experience that you're going to feel when you have the thing. And if you begin to start cultivating those feelings now, it doesn't really matter what the outcome is. That's how you can release the outcome, is because it ultimately doesn't really matter. Like, I'm happier now in a two-bedroom apartment than I ever was in a 3,000 square foot home
Mhm.
by myself. Like, so the thing is not the key.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So how do you start to develop those feelings and cultivate more of that in your life, or really identify at the heart of it how you want to be feeling?
Yeah, that's a good question. Number one, it starts with awareness
Mm.
and stillness. For me, this is what
Mm.
I've learned.
People need more of that. People resist
Yeah,
it.
yeah, people, you keep bulldozing through your life. How do you expect to hear what you actually want and what you really feel and think inside?
Yeah.
You get up and you do the same thing over and over again every single day. You brush your teeth the same way. You go to the kitchen, you eat the same food. You get in your car, you think the same thoughts. You listen to the same music. You listen to the same. Maybe you're listening to this podcast, and you go to your office and you get annoyed by the same things, and then and you fill your time, and then you go to the happy hour, and then you get home. It's like it's the same shit. So people don't disrupt the pattern enough.
Mm.
And what I've found with this work so much is like, you can drown out that inner voice by bulldozing through your life. And so much of the answers that you're looking for are going to be found in the stillness.
Yes.
So many people, they're scared of being alone, or they're scared of being still with their thoughts, or they're scared because they're scared of what they're going to find on the other side of that.
Yeah.
But you think you want all these things. You think you want to manifest a better body. You think you want to manifest the partner or the money or all these things. And you're like, why isn't it happening? And why isn't it working? But you're doing all the same crap. And you're not willing to sit with yourself long enough to even ask yourself, is that a thing that I truly want? To connect with the truth of who you are and what it is that you desire. And what you really desire is a connection to yourself and feeling alive and feeling whole and feeling free.
If you can't even sit alone with yourself, how do you expect the person of your dreams to want to sit with you
Mhm.
and be still
Right.
with you?
How do
Yeah.
you expect money to want to sit with you?
Mhm.
How do you expect other people to want to learn from you? How do you expect, because you're bulldozing through, and guess what? It gets a lot of people semi-mediocre results.
Yeah.
It gets some people some pretty big results where then they end up feeling empty on the other side of it. And ultimately, in this work, what I've found, the only way out is through. You can't go around it. You can't jump over it. You can't, you've got to sit with it and walk through the fire. And you have to be willing. The people that are willing are the ones that are walking the most fulfilling path. And that's it.
Wow. Wow. So powerful. Like you can't it won't be able to leave whatever the resistance is unless you let it come and really face those limiting beliefs. Now, where would you recommend that somebody start if they're like, "Yep, that's me. I
Mhm,
can't even eat a meal without having to like watch TV or scroll through TikTok to numb out because I
mhm.
can't sit alone with myself or I can't drive in the car without listening to something and blasting music to drown out my thoughts." Like how which with those 2 scenarios, I would say, okay, let's start with not, watching something while we eat, maybe just
Mhm.
commute to work without listening to something, like take small steps. But what suggestions do you have for where people can get started with this work?
The first thing I'll say to anyone listening to this, if that's your question, you know what to do. You know what you need, and you're just not doing it. And whatever comes up for you, if that was confronting, great, start there.
Mhm.
So if you are drowning out, sit and eat a meal in silence. Sit or drive in the car in silence just for a moment. See what happens. The thing that you're afraid of is the key. The thing that brings up the uncomfortable, icky feelings inside of you, that's the answer. Whatever feels like your kryptonite, that's the fire that I'm talking about having you walk through. Whatever holds the most charge has the bigger freedom on the other side when you unlock it. So go to the biggest charge that you can, that you feel. And when you unlock that, what's on the other side of that is so much more freedom, is so much more abundance, is so much more connection to yourself. And you've got to be willing. And so what that could look like, because I can just like picture someone being like, okay, great, but like, I don't even know. I have no idea. Right. Pick one thing. So many people listening to this podcast, you probably listen to a good amount of podcasts if you're here, right? You probably know a lot of the practices. You know you're supposed to journal, you know you're supposed to meditate. You could do some ice baths, you could do breath work, you're supposed to work out, right? Like there's all these different things
Mhm.
that are tools. And many people, listen and listen and listen to the podcasts. They read the books, they listen to the audibles, they know the things that they need to do. You know what to do. Don't do all of it. Don't overwhelm yourself. It's the same thing as like that I'm sure you talk about, Abby, on here, is like just do one thing. You
Yes.
don't need to like all of a sudden overhaul and go into a crazy diet and go work out for 2 hours when you don't even walk 15 minutes every single day, right? Like,
That's exactly what I say.
I figured. I'm like, I know she'll vibe with this. Same thing as in health. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So it's the same thing in spiritual work and doing self-development. It's the same thing in your business. It's the same. The definition of trauma is too much too fast. Goes both ways.
Okay, speak more on that.
Yeah. So definition of trauma is too much too fast. So you think you want to change your life overnight. If you changed into the version of you in every area, money, career, success, having the partner, having the body, having all the things, you wouldn't be able to handle it. Not because you are not capable, but because that is not how nature grows. So we grow slowly over time. Your ability and your capacity to handle and to cultivate the ability to hold what it is that you desire expands and grows over time. So if you try to overhaul every single thing in your life and you're beating yourself up as to why you're not there, you have 10, 20, 30, however long years of practicing being one specific way. We cannot overhaul that overnight in any area of your life, or you're going to go back to your baseline and it's not going to be sustainable because that's traumatic.
Yeah.
So let that go and allow yourself to do one shift that compounds over time. You shift to all of a sudden you walk 15 minutes a day. All of a sudden you're now reading 15 minutes a day. All of a sudden you're now meditating just for 5 minutes every single day. Every person that is listening to this has 5 minutes to meditate. I'm sorry. Do not tell me you don't. And if you were to do that, and then you would slow down enough to notice what's shifting within you, well, now you're playing a different game. So you're noticing these little shifts. Don't bulldoze through your life. Notice yourself for, oh my God, I'm meditating 5 minutes a day. What am I noticing that's changing? What thoughts am I noticing? What now you're cultivating a new awareness. So people think I need it now, 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 now. You just slowed yourself down. So instead, grow slowly. And as you grow slowly, the exponential shifts and ultimately the success that you want to manifest seemingly shows up overnight. So that's how it actually works. But people don't understand that. So they think that they need to overhaul their entire life and then they wonder why they're on a yo-yo. And that's why.
Yeah, and it's easier for you to pick up the gut feelings of what to do next. Like I think a lot of people, okay, once I do that one thing, okay, but what's the step after that? Because there's so many high achievers listening to this that want the boxes to check. This is not a list of boxes to check. And that's why we can't give you what the second step would be because the first step has to come from you. And then through that, you'll have more awareness and you'll be able to follow the gut intuitive feelings on what is the next step. And I love that you said too, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So if you could build discipline in one area, you'll be able to translate that into other areas of your life. But that will give you the confidence and the trust back in yourself that you can do one thing.
Oh my gosh, I could say so many things about that. It's so true. People get so annoyed at me because they want the key, they want the ticket, they want the step, and it's just not that. And I'm not going to lie to you. It's a process. And also, like, make it fun. Why are you making it so heavy? We make this shit so heavy.
Yeah.
Like,
we do.
oh, like so daunting to like change my life or like the spiritual, like all these concepts. I'm like, listen, where are we? Like, this is a game. This whole thing is a video game. Like, just hey, have fun. Like,
Yeah.
you know, what could you do today? What possibility? What's on the other side of you meditating for 5 minutes? It's like unlocks a key. Maybe like maybe we're just all going around finding keys that unlock different doors, and like this whole thing is like a scavenger hunt. Like that's literally how I view it. Oh, fun. What's on the scavenger hunt that I'm gonna find today? Oh, there's some gold coins over here. Great. Oh, there's a connection over here. Like What if you gamified it?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, does anyone really know what we're doing here anyway?
Literally
So,
no.
yeah.
Let's just have fun while we're doing it.
I'm like, what the fuck is the point?
Oh my God. Now, we had Meg on recently,
Love
and
her.
we were talking about masculine, feminine energies. Like masculine
Mhm.
is the doing and the checking of the list, and the feminine is the being.
Yep.
And we have so many people listening right now that are in their masculine, and we got a lot of questions like, "What does this mean? Could you speak more to feminine energy? How do I embody that? And how do I start to run the seemingly masculine things in my life, like my business or just my career? Not everyone has their own business listening to this. Being in my relationships from that feminine embodiment." So if you could
Yeah,
speak on that, that would be great. Yeah.
it's a balance.
Mm.
It's a, and this is something that I'm still learning in
Okay.
in my life as well. We need both, right? We all have both within us, and when we are tipping the scales in one direction, the other too far, and we come out of balance, that's when we feel discord in our life. So with your business, for example, like if you're just kind of like, well, get some things here. I'll like create when I feel like creating. And then like all of a sudden it feels like, your emotions are running the show and then you can't show up because you're like not feeling like it and da da da. Da. We're lacking masculine structure.
Mm.
If we're really rigid and like, this is what I need to do and this is what, and then like, but there's no room for creativity. There's no room for possibility. Then we're in our masculine too hard, right? And so you have to really look at what is it that I need in my life or in my business, right? And how could I begin to start? So from a feminine strategy, because I know a lot of your listeners are in masculine,
Mhm.
um, feminine is all about sensual. And when I say sensual, it's not sexual. Sensual is the senses, the five senses. So, one of the ways that I love to tap into the feminine essence is delighting all five of the senses. So, give yourself some space, give yourself permission for 30 minutes, an hour. Put on some music that makes you feel really just flowy and free and good, or sensual, sexual, if that's what you want. Whatever, like something that delights you in the moment.
Mhm.
Put up, maybe burn some incense, smells, like fabrics that you're wearing, like different, move your body. Just allow yourself place to flow and see what comes through for you. Notice an awareness of what, like, that's a really good practical for my masculine babes. Practical tip how to get into your feminine energy.
Yeah.
Just delighting and like slowing down and noticing. Feminine is full of wisdom, and we block ourselves off from wisdom when we're trying to control the outcome, trying to control um, the structure of things and how it goes and our goals and da da da. What if you gave yourself permission just for an afternoon? And instead, you cultivated listening to your intuition. So many people don't do this. Get still, say, what do you want me to know right now? Allow your intuition to guide you for an afternoon. Where do we feel like going? It's like, oh, let's go to this shop down the road. Boom. Okay, great. Listen to it. You don't need to know why. You don't need to know how. Just like, go. Okay, great. Where do we want to go next? What do we want? It's all about desire. It's all about following it. If you haven't even paused enough to listen, it's going to feel really weird. And then your brain's going to come in and go, well, why would I go over there? Why would I do this? Why would I want to do
Mhm.
that? Because that doesn't really make any sense. Your masculine already has taken over. And we live in a very
Yeah.
masculine driven society. So instead, I mean, we talk about people not being able to trust themselves. Well, you cut yourself off from your intuition, which is all divinely connected to your feminine. So give yourself permission and space for an afternoon to be led by that inner voice without questioning it, and have fun with it. And then just see what happens.
Oh, this is so good. Everyone needs to take their next Saturday, next day off, and do
Yep.
this.
It's
And
so fun.
yes, I did it last Saturday, and oh my gosh, I went to a bookstore, I went to a coffee shop, I had phone calls with friends to catch up, but it was just all intuitive. Sometimes you book a phone call with a friend to catch up. We're gonna catch up Thursday at 4 p.m. And then it's like you're dreading the call, even though this is a friend you probably haven't caught up with in a while. I don't know. So at least that happens to me sometimes. And I'm like, I don't want to be dreading
Mhm.
this appointment on my calendar when it should
Yeah.
be a positive things, but when the calls come up more organically, it's just, oh, it just feels so good. So yeah, I love letting my intuition lead on Saturdays. That's like my
Mhm.
day to do that. Oh,
Yeah.
so
So
good.
fun. So
Is
fun.
there anything else with, men, money, manifestation, basics that you think we should know?
Ooh. Well, there's so many things. I mean, I could take that down a lot of rabbit holes. Um,
We haven't talked about money at all and financial abundance.
yeah. Money needs a container to flow into. Number one. A lot of people think like money is just gonna like show up or it's just gonna one day it's gonna change. One day it's gonna change. And what I've learned, at least on my journey, is money needs a container and a safe place to flow into. Money needs to feel safe with you. We can talk from like a woo woo standpoint if we want, right? Like
Mhm.
we hear that all the time of um treat money like you're in a relationship with it. And how are you speaking about money? How are you feeling about money? How are you and those things helped me to a point. I've worked with a money coach for quite some time now. When I started, and I'm super open. I made a lot of money last year. It was my first year in my online business. I've been when my podcast launched a little over a year and a half ago is when everything really took off for me, and I made a shit ton of money. Um, I wanted the going back and wrapping it up to the first half of this podcast and what we were first talking about is like what you think you want isn't always what it feels like when you actually get it. And I went through a major dark night of the soul a year ago because in the online space, we hear, oh my God, I went 10K months, 10K months, this like this kind of right. 10K months is a thing. Or then I would look up to these coaches that had, oh, they had a $30,000 launch. Like what? Because when I was in corporate America, my first job out of college, I made 30K in a year. So it was like, what? That's crazy. They have $30,000. This person had a $50,000 lunch. That's wild, right? And then it happened for me when I went all in relatively quickly. My very first beta launch was a $50,000 launch.
Oh
And
my
then
god.
my next launch was a $65,000 launch. And I quickly surpassed 10K months, 20K months, 40K months. And it did not feel like I thought it was going to feel. And it sent me into a spiral because I realized what I thought I wanted wasn't what I wanted. Was it great that I had more money in my bank account? Yes. Did I want that? Yes. Did I feel the same exact way about myself? Yeah. And almost a little bit worse because then I felt lost because I realized, oh my gosh, what I thought I wanted wasn't the key. It wasn't the answer. It wasn't the ticket. And at the end of the day, I was still left with myself.
Mm.
And I also quickly learned just because you make more money doesn't mean you have more money because then my expenses went up and then I learned these things very fast. And something I do acknowledge myself for and love about myself is that when I see something and I learn, I quickly learn and then I pivot. So I immediately was like, okay, I'm hiring a money coach. Okay, I'm going to figure out what I'm doing to invest. Okay, I'm going to like I realized that there was work to do there,
Yeah.
and it's also what ultimately led me down somatic and trauma healing and healing trauma in the body because I understood that I had done mindset work for so long and that in many ways my body and my automatic subconscious processes, even though I was doing subconscious reprogramming, trauma is stored in the body. So I really went on this healing journey of like, it doesn't really matter how much I have if it doesn't feel the way I wanted it to feel when I arrived. And suddenly I became the coach that people started to look up to. And I became the person that was like, oh my gosh, she did this. And I was like, I felt like an imposter. It felt like I was like, it so did not feel the way that I thought it was going to feel. And it ultimately was just another level and layer of healing. So I just went on a major tangent there. But I think like the point of this is realizing like if you're sitting there comparing yourself to the coach that, you know, is making hundreds of thousands of dollars or is a millionaire or whatever, number one, you have no idea what actually they're feeling at that point. And now being in the spaces that I'm in, I can seriously tell you everyone is just a human being. And it's all about how you feel when you have the thing. And if you're wanting more money, we need a container for it to flow into. You need to feel good about it. You want to be able to um, really be able to energetically hold it. And also, I really began to learn my money archetypes with the coach that I was working in. And that's ultimately the thing that has changed my life more than anything else.
I haven't heard of that. What is that?
So money archetypes are the subconscious, and I'm not certified in this, so I'm going to do my best to just like bring it to everyone. At the Money Coaching Institute is where I learned this.
Okay.
And I'll have to give you the book because the book is my coach wrote the book and it's epic and amazing and it goes over all of the types. But ultimately, we can look at how we speak on money, right? We can talk about treating money like our boyfriend. We can like do all those things that manifestation talks about. But if we don't understand how we actually relate to money, and like for me, the archetypes are what help, you're still going to always self-sabotage. So I know people, like I have friends that are multi millionaires that also have multi million dollars of expenses because their money archetypes are still the same.
Yeah.
And so we are, from my understanding, we just like our subconscious mind is formulated between the ages of 0 and 7, so is our money concept is formulated between the ages of 0 and 7. And it ends up running the show for years and years. And so it could be from our parents and how our parents spoke about money. It can be about society. It could literally be about we went to our friend's house and like the concept we had about our friend and their life doesn't even have to be true. But the way we perceived it as a child is what ends up installing our software program about money, right? So there's these different archetypes. There's the victim archetype, which is like, oh, I'll never get ahead with money. I never have enough. Like just feeling really bad for ourselves. And you often like these archetypes are sneaky. Like you won't realize that you're actually a victim archetype, right?
Yeah.
Victim archetype. There's the innocent archetype, which is like, I don't want to look at it. Head in the sand. Like, oh, that's too hard. Like I like if you avoid your bank account, you're in your innocent. There's a tyrant archetype, which is like exactly what it sounds like. Either you're beating yourself about not having enough money, which is your self tyrant. I was a self tyrant, a really big self tyrant. There's also or a tyrant toward other people. There is the fool. You overspend all the time. You don't look at you overgive. That was also another one of mine. But and like I would be at the bars and be like 10 shots for everyone. This was years and years ago. Right. And then I would look at my bar tab as like a 22-year-old and be like, why did I just spend $400 that I didn't have at the bar?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that was a big one for me. And then there's the warrior. There's maybe a few others that I'm missing, but there's the warrior and the magician, which are the archetypes that you want to move into. And the warrior is the get it done. I can do it. I can figure this out. And so like cultivating the inner warrior, that's something that I've really, really worked on. And also the magician. The magician is the ultimate archetype that we all want to move into, which is I trust money. Money trusts me. I can create money anytime. I can let it flow out. I can let it flow in. There's always more. And so the warrior and the magician, going back to divine masculine and divine feminine, think of the warrior as the divine masculine and the magician is the divine feminine. And when you cultivate the archetype of both of those and have them together, working together in tandem,
Mm.
that is when you ultimately have the greatest capacity for money and the greatest ability to hold it. And all of these shadow archetypes, number one is just like an awareness. Like it's okay. Wherever you're at with money right now, it's like it's okay. We're not taught this stuff in society.
No,
And
we're not.
when you have an awareness of what archetypes that you're constantly moving, we're all multiple archetypes, but we typically have a few that are at the top. Um so if you find yourself, like a tip for people, and this is what I've really worked on, is like if you find yourself not wanting to look at it, or if you find yourself feeling really sorry for yourself or angry or jealous of other people or whatever, right? Practice cultivating the warrior first, of like, you know what? If they can do it, so can I. You know what? I can do this. I am going to open my bank account right now. Like, because the part, it's just a part of you. I'm really big into internal family systems, which is parts work. And every single part of ourselves is valid, and they're just trying to protect you and keep you safe, but it's not who you are. So when you're walking the spiritual path and you begin to get still and cultivate an awareness, you'll begin to understand that the part of you that self-sabotages, the part of you that overspends, the part of you that's in there innocent, the part of you that doesn't want to look at it, or the part of you that overeats, it's just a part of you that is intelligently trying to protect you the best way it knows how. But you aren't bad. You aren't wrong. You aren't broken. It's just a part. And it's drowned out the warrior in you. It's drowned out the creator in you. It's drowned out the part of you that is strong and resilient and capable. Because I guarantee you, if you looked for it, you could find times in your life where you were resilient, where you were capable, where you did do the thing. Maybe when you were backed up into a corner, like I have a very strong warrior, but my warrior at the time was only strong when I was in a crisis. When that warrior had to come out, oh my, I have one of the strongest warriors of anyone I know. And my innocent and my victim and my fool really drowned out that warrior for a long time, specifically with money. And so you have it in you. It's just your other parts have been louder. So got to have the awareness to cultivate the warrior when you notice yourself going into those other archetypes with anything, not just money. My business. Oh my God, why is everybody else? It always happens for other people, not me. Like, oh, I can't believe it. Why would she spend her money like that? Whatever the fuck your thoughts are, like that's just a part. Listen, you have a judgy part. You might have like a part that, beats up on you. You might have a self tyrant in there. Set them aside. No, you know what? No, you don't get to run the show today. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to step up and I'm going to support myself just today, just in this moment. And then you learn how to cultivate the inner warrior. And you also, or look at possibility. How could that happen for me? That's the magician, right? How could I create that? How could I create that for myself? How do I see that that's possibility? And what are the possibilities from where I'm standing right now in this moment? And if I say that and you're like, no, but there's not possibility for me, you're in your victim. It's just strong. So when you begin to understand the archetypes, then you can begin to shift and actively call upon the warrior and magician parts of you that actually are your true self that can create what it is that you desire. And so it's been a journey working with these parts of myself for a year, but it's helped
I'm
a
excited
lot.
to get the book. I think I really
Yeah.
need this, and I
Yeah.
probably need a money coach as well. Oh, that's so good. And when you said before to, money needs a container to flow into, I think that concept might be a little confusing for people.
Mhm.
Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. What are you offering? What value are you creating? So if you're a coach, if you want an online business, Are you talking about your offer? Are you talking about how you create value for people? Are you inviting people in to work with you one-on-one? When my financial reality really shifted, like when I had that $50,000 launch, I created a container. The container being my 12-week program. Now it's a 10-week program called Manifestation University, where I take people through a 4-part process: unlock, unlearn, uncover, and unleash, where I take them through their limiting beliefs, their subconscious reprogramming. I give them a ton of tools like what I just talked about today. Whether that's from parts, where all these different things, right? And as I'm learning, I'm constantly adding to it. And that's a container that creates value for people, helps solve a problem for them and what it is that they want. And so that's a container that money can flow into. And right now, I'm not selling a ton because I was working on the foundation and hiring for my business and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, granted, I have a beautiful amount of recurring revenue. So that's how I'm able to do that. But I'm not having these huge launches right now. I'm not actively being like, here's a container. People can buy my course on Evergreen for, a discounted price. That's a container, but it's a smaller container. So I have a smaller amount of money coming into that portal right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so people that are like maybe in corporate America or something like that, they need to increase their value, whether maybe it's an additional certification or other skills or whatever it
Mhm.
is, so that you could get a promotion, get a raise or whatever it is to be a bigger container for money to flow into.
Right.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, okay. So someone that's in corporate America, right? Like, you're like, oh my God, I'm not gonna fix salary. Like manifestation, like that only works for people that like have an online business or the whatever. No, in your closet, how much money do you have in your closet right now? Thousands of dollars. You got that old Louis Vuitton purse that you don't even really like anymore and you never wear. Value. That's somebody else's value. That's a container. Go online, you could sell that purse. And you created value for someone else. When you begin to train yourself to see value in a different way, you have literally money. You are swimming in a sea of money right now. Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have food in your fridge? Do you have clothes on your back? Do you have a cell phone in your hand? Where are you listening to this podcast on right now? Awesome. You are in a sea of money, in a sea of value that was created for you. So when you begin to understand that that's what abundance is. If you're like, how do I tap into abundance? Open your
Look,
eyes.
look around.
Look around you. Look where we are. Like one of my favorite exercises that I think about is like, okay, close your eyes and imagine like spanning out from yourself 360 degrees, right? So like if you saw yourself from a bird's eye view and you like expanded your awareness, noticing the 4 walls that are on, and then what's on the other side of you. Is it apartments or a room, or is it grass and the outdoors? And then, imagine all the money that's circulating right now in this moment at the Valero station across the street. Someone's swiping their card. At the across the street at the restaurant over here, someone's swiping their card. And then there you hit a mall, and then all these thousands of dollars that are just like, imagine all over the world, like in the ethers right now, how much money is just like transferring everywhere. And it's just a concept. Money is literally just a concept. It's numbers on a screen. That's all it is. And so what are people doing? They're transactioning value. And so when you can begin to understand, you're swimming in it. And when you can expand your awareness and your perspective of how much there really is, that's a portal. It's a tunnel that you walk through. It's and that expands your awareness of what's on the other side. Right now, you're like looking through. I know you guys can't see me. You're looking through like a little tiny peephole. Like imagine like out your front door. You know those little holes that are in the door, so you can see if there's a creep on the other side. So like you look through the peephole. That's your perspective right now. And what I want you to do is open the whole door. I've never said that before. Pretty good.
That's really good. I appreciate you kind of calling people out, but in a loving way. It's like if we don't like the life that we're living right now, something needs to change. We need to disrupt the routine. You can't keep doing the same things and then expecting a different result.
Yeah,
And it starts with stillness.
it does. Awareness.
So so good. Okay, so where can people find you? What are you promoting right now? All the things.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best place to find me is on Instagram, TikTok at Rachel Gibler, specifically Instagram. I hang out there a lot.
Yeah.
And also on my podcast, It's Fucking Spiritual. You can find that on Spotify, Apple, all of the places where you listen to podcasts. And as far as working with me or wanting, if you want to dive like more into this work, into subconscious reprogramming, into manifestation, but from a very scientific standpoint, I break down spiritual and self-development principles in a way that makes them very real, raw, and relatable for people, and in a way that you can actually apply it to your life and understand. So I've got a course called Manifestation University that I mentioned on here. And right now I sell it for 75% off the actual group program. So you can do this self-paced course. It's amazing. It's like 25 hours of content and a ton of different
Mm.
workbooks to begin to apply this to your life. So you can purchase that at any time. Or if you're really wanting to dive in, I have like 2 spots open for one-on-one. So that's ways to work with me now. And definitely DM me. If you found me from this podcast, I'm really connected with my community and I would love to get to know you more. So don't be shy and come introduce yourself.
Amazing. And the last question that I always ask every guest is what is one thing that you're going to do this week? Because we always want to focus on one thing at least. What is one thing you're going to do this week to make your week better?
I right now am feeling really good with turning off my phone early.
Mm.
Yes. And I can even get into the rabbit hole of like having my phone later at night and all of those things. And it's really powerful just having that distraction
I
and
love
first
that.
thing in the morning.
I think we all need to do that for sure.
We do.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I seriously appreciate you and all of your words of wisdom and all the literal value bombs you just incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Abby. This was so much fun.
Hey, y'all. Thanks again for listening to the Be About Being Better podcast. I so appreciate you. If this episode made you laugh, smile, think about yourself or your life differently, in any way making your life better, I empower you to share the show with 3 people who, just like you, need to hear this message and have this type of transformation in their lives. I personally read all the reviews of the show and see the Instagram story shares, and it honestly gives me so much joy to see that our mission is making people's lives better. And the reviews really do help in increasing our impact. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. If you need personalized support with anything discussed in today's episode or need help creating a sustainable, diet-free lifestyle, take my quiz. It's linked below in the show notes, and that quiz will help you see which one of our coaching programs is right for you. Thank you so much again for listening, and here's to being about being better.